Welcome to the Defense and Aerospace Report. I'm Vago Muradian here in Washington, D.C. for AUVSI's Washington Conference focused on autonomy and artificial intelligence. And it's our honor to be talking to John Perry, who's the Chief Executive Officer of Altavian, an American unmanned systems company. You guys pride yourself on having a lot of secret sauce that goes into some of your systems. John, we heard a lot of messages. We heard from Ellen Lord, the Undersecretary of Defense for Acquisition and Sustainment, talking about the importance of investing in homegrown unmanned systems and autonomy and AI for military applications, given how prominent a role China plays, and Digi in particular. Obviously a ban from DoD, or I should say she gets to review some of those requests to use Digi products still. But talk to us a little bit about the company, what your guys' growth strategy is, and what you think you're bringing that's unique to the market.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you very much, and we're really excited about participating in this event. It's really important for this community to be able to get together, share information about the technology and where the marketplace is going, and obviously what the warfighter needs, and our security personnel and others. Right. So, as an industry, we're here to make sure that we're meeting the requirements, right, that are out there for this technology, and how to make this a real success in the U.S. and have a strong U.S. industrial base for it. As a company, Altavian, we founded in 2011, so we've been around for a while. Some say it's dinosaur years in this technology, but we've been through a lot. So starting in 2011, we were doing a lot of work for civil agencies, coming out of work with the Army Corps of Engineers on some of their civil missions, such as ecological restoration and infrastructure inspection. Obviously, we had a lot of experience as the regulations came online to move out of civil and kind of take a look at the commercial market. And of course, it was exciting times and a tremendous challenge, right? So obviously competition came in hot. It's been a huge market explosion. The supply chain has become long. Obviously, as you mentioned, there's a substantial base there in China. And so, and as a competitive space, it's been a challenge for U.S. companies. So part of Altavian's strategy was to go in and to fulfill our mission in the defense space. So starting in 2012, we became a contractor for the U.S. Army, and we found some success there, right? So our ability to really stay leading edge with the technology drove us to be able to deliver good solutions to them, and we continue to continue that work.
And how much of it is American, right? I mean, there's a lot of discussion about how much is American, given that, you can have a system that's 30% American in terms of aerostructure, motors, and the like, whereas a lot of the electronics can come from China. From your solution standpoint, how much of it is American?
Well, so certainly when we talk about the supply chain for these, you can source in the U.S., right? Now, there are, of course, limitations on that in terms of cost and availability, right? But, while it's a challenge, we have the ability to provide a good, strong U.S. solution. That said, China has established clear leaderships in terms of cost efficiencies and availability. I mean, they are the global leader in many of the components that make a drone work. As we move forward, I think it's about balancing that supply chain. Obviously, there's components, right, where you're going to have natural advantages internationally and limitations on the supply. But where there are critical elements, and recently the memorandum that came out of President Trump's office for the Section 303 declaration, as this is a national security item, puts it into a sort of different category where we do need to look at that supply chain assurance and make sure that we have a source secure capability here domestically.
And how do you effectively compete in a market where there is a market size advantage, right? I mean, Digi has a giant global footprint moving up the food chain, so it's not just the Chinese stuff that you're buying at Best Buy for Christmas, but starting to get up there. Everybody wants, whether it's an air taxi, to try to move up, into this space, scaling up in some cases the technology that's on a smaller scale. How do American companies remain competitive if there is that kind of built-in Chinese volume advantage and a cost advantage?
Well, it's all about focus. I mean, really, you have to define your niche, as in any competitive market. I mean, technology is not the only space where we face international competition. So the extent to which we look at particular applications, obviously defense is a natural one, U.S. Can maintain its technological lead by focusing in on those areas. Now, as we go forward, we'll want to expand out. We leverage those capabilities that we grow with those particular targeted applications. And over time, of course, we'll look to expand the market and to reach into the market share that China currently has.
Let me ask you one question about differentiation, though, right? There are so many companies, each one of them strong in their own right, but in general, there's so many products out there. What do you think are the key discriminators in this market at the end of the day? You know, it's a little bit like buying a small car. There are so many good small cars that it's kind of hard to pick a good small car. What, from your standpoint as the chief executive, what differentiates people in the market now, and what will be the attributes that differentiate in the future, given that the barriers to entry appear to be so low that there's just a vast number of guys who are in the business and actually all doing some pretty neat things?
Well, that's actually a really interesting question. So, from our view, it's actually a really unique marketplace in the sense that the barriers to entry are very low, but from a technical standpoint. So really, the United States has a tremendous amount of capability, companies just of all types that are really able to pull together the components and do the basic engineering that it takes to put together and bring a drone to market. Many companies view your competitive advantage as perhaps a unique vehicle morphology. That sort of means what type of aircraft it is, right? Or they might look to one particular sensor or another as sort of their unique approach. And of course, in this era, software and algorithms are a tremendous driver for those kinds of sort of feature capabilities that are the basis for a sales pitch, right, and that competitive advantage. But really what we see as the true and significant barrier to entry in this market is actually on the business side, right? Given the market conditions with such a hyper-competitive market where you do have very low barriers on the technology side, your ability as a company to really move up the scale and actually be able to capture those prime contracts either with the Department of Defense, U.S. civil agencies, major corporations, to really be able to bring your product to market in a big way is a big jump, right? And that's really what distinguishes the companies that are successful in this market and are not.
And where do you guys want to be, say, in 5 years, right? I mean, you didn't mention that you guys also you made components for Shadows and a bunch of other air systems that other folks were making. But as you look as the chief executive into your growth strategy, where do you guys expect to be, for example, in 5 to 10 years? And if you want to look at a shorter focus, just next year is fine too.
Well, look, to be clear right now, the demand really is about meeting the needs for the warfighter, right? So we're looking at this from the standpoint of empowering those warfighters in the field to increase their situational awareness, to increase their protection in the battlefield, right? And as a core ISR asset, this technology is critical, and it continues to evolve how we use these. And so right now, our focus is making sure that those requirements are met and that the innovation is really targeted towards meeting those needs. And as we go forward, I think it's a natural transition. And there's a lot of discussion about this being a dual-use technology. For every innovation that we make, to make it simpler for the warfighter to take to the field, to lower the swap, the size, weight, and power, easier transport, to simplify the logistics. Those things all transfer to the commercial market, right? And the one place where we have clear leadership in our ability to apply advanced algorithms and advanced sensors that really drive competitive advantages in the marketplace and ultimately, obviously, provide overmatch on the battlefield, those things we think will be the real linchpin and the center point for our move into the commercial market in the future.
You guys are 40 to 50 employees. How much do you guys, of percentage of sales, for example, are you reinvesting in R&D, right? You look at some of the big companies, it's 1%. Obviously, it's a big 1% if you're a Lockheed or a Boeing, for example. But if you look at European companies, they're spending as much as 20% of their top line coming in the door to focus and to remain competitive. From your guys' standpoint, what's that total amount? And where are you putting most of your money of that amount that you're investing?
Well, without getting into the precise financials, I think really you're talking about a technology startup, an innovator, right? And so, really, our entire mission is not to stay where the technology is. We're not here to run out another production contract. We're here to move the technology forward, right? So, it is the mission of the company to continue to innovate, to continue to drive progress. And so, obviously, our investment decisions and how we run the business are about getting to where the puck is going to be.
And where is it in the autonomy? Is it in power? Where are you putting that investment? I mean, where do you think the future of this technology is going to be in it so much as you want to be able to, right? I mean, if you've built a better mousetrap, I don't think you necessarily want to tell everybody about it. But in so much as you want to tell or, can discuss it, where are you putting that money? Is it in the algorithms? Is it in battery management? Is it in aerostructures? I mean, I think that folks have a tendency of sometimes underrating the importance of that. Where do you think this business is going to be in 5 years? And what is the puck you're skating to, and where are you putting your investment, right? Because everybody has a finite amount of dollars.
Well, first as a systems manufacturer, right? So our job is to produce complete systems ready to field. We really look at a balanced portfolio for those investments, right? So it's about, each generation of the technology improving one area of performance or another, and oftentimes bring more than one together. I think a critical part of our success to build a U.S. industrial base that will remain globally competitive is to think about it as an ecosystem, right? So, it's not up to any one company to be the lead in all of those areas, and it's very rarely the case in the market that's true. So as a company, we're open to partnerships and bringing in other technology partners who are really advancing the state of the science and technology in each of those different areas. Again, sensors and autonomy and the individual components.
Two more questions. First, what's your advice to the government, right? We heard from Ellen Lord. We heard from General Eric Smith, the commander of Marine Corps Combat Development Command. We also heard from Richard Kaiser, Major General, who's the Deputy Commanding General of the Army Corps of Engineers, talking about how to move the ball more quickly, how to acquire more quickly. And again, Ellen Lord, was key in that conversation, talking about also speeding the acquisition cycle a little bit. What do you want to see from the government in order to be able to move more quickly? What do you think the keys are to innovating fast, and how companies like you can participate in that?
Well, it's clear that innovation is a process, and they call acquisition a process, but it tends to be a little more of a cycle, right? And so I think everything that we're hearing at events like these, where the government's reaching out and communicating about their plans, and our ability to start looking at these as sort of a continuous acquisition strategy, and be able to do that in an ongoing basis, sort of the idea of buy soon and buy often, and that being a real driver to ultimately the cost to the taxpayer, right? Their ability to get those innovation gains by shortening the cycle, right, and turning this really into an innovation process. That's what we're looking for.
And last question is trusted marketplace. One of the things that Undersecretary Lord discussed was, let's create a trusted financial marketplace to ensure that there is not Chinese direct capital that's going into some of these capabilities. For example, a concern that China is gaining intellectual property through its investments, right, in exchange for being a direct investor, getting access to the technology, which goes back to China. So is there a way to create investment in the American drone industry, for example, that allows that technology in this key industrial base to flourish? What advice do you have to the department as somebody who is in that 40 to 50 personnel who's looking to get that investment capital, where there could be a Chinese angel investor who historically would have come in and actually tried to put money into this, obviously for their own profit and perhaps to abscond with technology? What do you think the department's got to bear in mind? Is this something that would be helpful and useful to you, or not?
Well, it is the case that there are real challenges in the capital markets for any dual-use technology, right? So traditional emerging technology plays with venture capital and others really do have challenges working with defense companies. Those aforementioned acquisition cycles, right, play into the business proposition that you can make to the capital investors. That said, while there may be challenges, it is clear that there are concerns about foreign-owned, foreign-influenced companies, particularly, again, going back to this being an item of national security interest, right? So we need to pay attention to those concerns, strike that balance, ensure that we are, responsibly getting the corporate governance in place to target these requirements and to be a good supplier to our defense community. And that said, we do look forward to the capital markets recognizing the real opportunity that's here, right? So there have been huge successes in the past for these dual-use technologies for investors who saw through that noise and were able to take advantage of the opportunity.
And do you have any trouble attracting clean capital? I mean, is that a challenge on the market? I mean, is that a problem that needs solving, or is there investment dollars out there for guys like you who want to grow that actually don't have any negative overhang on it?
Well, I don't think, I'd say, I don't think that there's a particular challenge to us, right? I think ultimately, like any other business, you're looking at the profit and loss, you're looking at potential growth opportunities, and so I wouldn't say that there's any particular challenge other than really what are we going to do as U.S. corporations to succeed in this marketplace, and our ability to, again, go back, focus, make sure that we're able to target where we can be successful in the market, have those natural competitive advantages. Those are the things that ultimately will make both us and our investors successful.
John Perry, CEO of Altavian. John, best of luck to you, and look forward to seeing you guys and where you're going to be in 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. It was very good to talk to you.